Today we're going to make what I'm calling the Autumn Flurry bracelet. This bracelet is a lot of fun to wear. It's very colorful, makes some noise, all that good stuff. And I'm going to show you how to make this today. This is what it looks like. You can see it a little bit better than on the wrist. It's just kind of a little foofy. You can see the peyote through. And that's basically what this is a peyote stitch with fringing and a little button that we embellish and a little loop to close it up. So let's go ahead and get started on this project. Okay, for this project, I'm going to show you the beads you will need. Now keep in mind, this particular project, you can change the beads out very easily. Instead of using leaves, you can use round beads, you can use crystals, you can use whatever you want to fringe this with. Just as long as if you're using a shaped or if you're using a leaf like I'm using, make sure it has a vertical hole. Now I am using 12 by 7 Czech glass leaves. I'm using a mixture here of colors. It's called a tropical mixture. Now these are really good size. They're 12 by 7. This makes the bracelet very bold and kind of heavy. So if you want to use smaller leaves, it's perfectly fine. The size doesn't really matter. And like I said, the type of bead doesn't really matter. As long as it has a vertical hole if it's a shaped bead. Now, you will need, regardless of what you use, whatever you're going to fringe with, you'll need at least 80. Now, you may need a little more if you make a bigger size than I make, but I'm going to use about 80 leaves today. Then you will need 2 colors of 6/0 seed beads. Now there again, if you're going to make your bracelet smaller, if you don't want it to be heavy and you don't want it to be really bold, then you can use 8/0 seed beads instead of 6/0 seed beads. You'll just have to keep in mind that no matter what beads you change in your basic peyote stitch here, these are the ones we're going to use for our peyote and these for fringing, but whatever you use, you're just going to go down a size. So if you want to make it smaller, instead of using 6/0s, you'll use 8/0s. Instead of using an 8/0, you'll use an 11/0. Instead of using an 11/0, you will use a 15/0. Just keep that in mind if you decide you want to change the size and the weight of this bracelet. But what I'm going to use today is 2 colors of 6/0 seed beads. This is a turquoise, and this is a galvanized aluminum silver toho. Then I'm going to use an 8/0. This is also a toho, and this is a bronze colored galvanized toho. Then I will need an 11/0 seed bead, so I'm going to use another silver bead. And this is also a toho. It's 11/0, and it is the galvanized aluminum silver. So then you will need a button. I am going to use this button with 4 holes. It's a good size button, probably about an inch, maybe a little over 1.5 inches, something like that, in diameter. Something fairly decent size to put on to your for your clasp. Now this is just a little plastic button. I don't really like the look of it. I don't like to use plastic. However, I'm going to dress it up. It's the right color and it's the right size. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. I just bought this at Walmart. You can get packages of them with several different colors at Walmart. Otherwise, just try to go through maybe old coats or something that has a big button on it. And if it has 4 holes, that's best. That's what I'm going to show you. But if you don't, if it only has 2, you can probably modify it to work. Then you're going to need 8-pound Fireline, and you're going to need several yards. So you'll start with a comfortable length. It would probably be best to start with a couple wingspans, just so that you don't have to extend your Fireline so quickly. I'm not going to use quite that much, but so it doesn't get in the way. But you'll also leave a long tail, so keep that in mind. Let's readjust and get started. We're going to start by putting a little seed bead on the end of our thread for a stopper bead. Now you're going to want to leave at least a 12-inch tail, maybe even a little more. And then just thread on an 8/0 seed bead or whatever you have that's available, and then come back through it. And now you have a little stopper bead here. Then you're going to pick up 12 6/0 seed beads. I am going to start with just silver because I want my ends to be finished off in silver. So I'm going to start with 12 6/0 silver seed beads, and I'm going to drop them down. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more silver. I'm going to do my first couple rows in silver simply because of the fact, like I said, I want my ends to be finished off with silver. So I'm going to pick up my work. Now hold it the best you can. Hold on to your tail. And then we are going to skip 2. We're going to do this peyote, but we're going to do peyote with 2 beads at a time. So we're going to skip the first 2, and then we're going to go into the next 2 beads and pull. And lay your beads on top of the 2 beads in your sequence of beads that you added onto your thread first. Now we're coming out of these 2 beads here. Let's get just a little closer so you can see better what I'm doing. That's a little too close. And then, now that we're coming out of these 2, we're going to skip 2 and go into the next 2. And pull our thread through. And lay those 2 on top. Just like that. And then, I have such a long tail, I'm arguing with it. Then I'm coming out of these 2 beads, so I'm going to pick up 2 more. And I'm going to skip over 2 and then go into 2. Just like this. I went under my tail there. Pull it through. So now I have my first 2 rows of peyote. So now I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to sew back. Pick up 2, this is where I'm going to add my other color. I'm going to pick up 2 turquoise color, and then I'm just going to go into the next 2. So I've got these little slots, your basic peyote. We're just using 2 beads at a time. Then you'll pick up 2 more and go into the next 2. Pick up 2 more and go into the next 2. We're going to do about 6 rows of peyote before we start putting our leaves on. So you count diagonally how your peyote here. So I have 1, 2, 3 rows right now. I'm going to do about 6, and I'm going to alternate my colors now. So I've got the silver here. I just did the blue. Now I'm going to do silver again. And then I'm going to go into the next ones. Just like that. Then I will start my next row with blue. Well, so I think we'll do 1 more here. And this is where we will begin to add our leaves. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Then we're going to use some 11/0s and, of course, one of our leaves. Now, when we do this, we're going to make our fringes a little bit different in size each one. So we'll use either 2 or 3 11/0s. But we're going to start with an 8/0. Then I'm going to go ahead and start with 2 11/0s. Then I'm going to pick up my leaf, and then I'm going to pick up an 11/0, just like this. I'm going to drop these down. I'm then going to come around the 11/0 seed bead, go into the leaf, and the 2 11/0 seed beads underneath it, just like this. And then I'm going to hold on to all of it and pull my thread through. I'm going to lay it on top of my work, and I'm going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to go through my next 2 6/0 seed beads in line. I'm going to pull it up over the edge like this. And it's going to be loose until we finish our row and come back through. So just make sure that it's lying on top and that there's no slack in the fringing part. So you don't want any slack between your 11/0s, your 8/0s, and your little leaf here. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then we're going to do that again. So we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. This time I'm going to pick up 3 11/0s because I'm going to alternate between using 3 and 2 11/0s as I do my netting. Or not my netting, but as I do my fringing. It doesn't really matter exactly what order you do it in. I'm just doing it so that my leaves will lay a little differently when it's finished. So I want kind of a random look. So now I'm picking up an 8/0, my 3 11/0s, a leaf, and an 11/0. I'm going to bring it down to my work. I am then going to come back around the 11/0 seed bead and up through the 3 11/0s underneath the leaf. Hold on to the leaf and pull. Make sure your entire fringe is tight. Pick up another 8/0 and go into the next 2 of your peyote stitch, just like this. And then we'll do that again. We'll pick up an 8/0 seed bead. This time I'm going to do 2 11/0s, and we'll pick up a leaf and an 11/0. We'll drop them down, and then we will go around the 11/0, through the leaf, through the 2 11/0s. And make sure you do not include your 8/0 seed beads when you come back down. Just the 11/0s. Make sure your fringe is nice and tight and looks good. Pick up another 8/0 and go through the next 2 6/0 seed beads. So now we have 3 little leaves dangling. Let's push them back and start your next row. Now this last row we did with silver, so we're going to do blue now. And when we do this, we're going to use these 8/0s as our next section of beads instead of going through these 8/0s down here. We don't want to do that. So we're going to put our 2 beads on, and then we're going to go through the 8/0, both of them, just like this. Let's get real close so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Just the 8/0s. You will avoid the 11/0 on your fringe, and you will avoid the 6/0s underneath. You just go through the 8/0s and then pull your 6/0s into place on your peyote. I'm going to turn just so I can hold this a little better. Now I'm coming out of these 2 8/0s here. This just pushed everything down into place, and now it's part of my peyote. So now I'm going to pick up 2 more turquoise beads, and I'm going to go into just my 8/0 seed beads, just like this. And I'm going to pull. Pop those down. And they will line up as we do this too, so don't worry too much if they get a little weird. It's okay. And then Again, I'm going to pick up my 2 6/0 seed beads. I'm going to skip over these 2 and go into just the 8/0s like this. Now I'm going to bend my leaves back so I can see what I've got here. This is what I've got. I'm coming out of this 8/0 here. Now I need to go into these beads. So I did blue, so now I'm going to do silver. And I'm just going to go over the top of these 2 8/0s with the leaf and then go into the next turquoise. And then again, the same thing. Just go over the 8/0s and your leaf and into the next 2 6/0s. And again, it's like that. And that's what you should have right there. At this point, it's just a matter of repeating everything exactly the same. Now, you'll remember after you do your little silver row underneath your 8/0 seed beads, when your 8/0 seed beads are completely covered by an entire row, like this, then you will start your next row with your 8/0s and your leaves. So it'll basically always be under the turquoise beads. You will have a row with your leaves, you will have a row with your turquoise that you go through, and then you'll have a row with your silver. When it looks completely filled in like this, when your beads are alternating like this, then you will start another row with your 8/0s. So you'll begin with an 8/0, and this time I'm going to do 3 11/0s since this one up here has 2. So I'm going to do 3 11/0s, and then I'm going to pick up another leaf and just kind of mess with your colors on your leaves, kind of variegate them through. You don't want a big blob of one color and a big blob of it, just kind of variegate them. Move them around and spread them out evenly if you're using different colors. Of course, you don't have to use different colors either. But if you are, do that. So now I have my fringe on. I'm going to go around this 11/0 seed bead, up through the 3 11/0s, push that 8/0 over, and pull it tight, just like this. Back off a little, I'm getting out of frame. And I know that drives you guys crazy. Drives me crazy too. And then I'm going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead, and I'm going to go directly into the next set of silver ones here. And pull this over on top. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. Pick up an 8/0. This time I'm going to pick up 2 of my 11/0s. And then I'm going to pick up a leaf. And then I'm going to pick up an 11/0. Drop them down. As this gets fuller, the leaves are going to drive you crazy with your thread. But just try to get around them the best you can. Go around your 11/0. Go up through the 2 11/0s. Avoid the 8/0. Never go into these 8/0s when you're fringing. Otherwise, if you do, you won't have your next beads for your peyote when you go into it. They won't be available. They'll be all messed up. Then pick up an 8/0 and go into your next set of silver beads, like this. Then pick up an 8/0, and this time I'm going to use 3 of my 11/0s, and then I'm going to pick up another leaf. Let's see what color I can find here that I like. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I use the blue one. Like this. Pick up an 11/0, like this, and drop them down. Go around the 11/0. Go through the 11/0s underneath it. Avoid the 8/0. Hold on to your beads. Oops. See, that's why you have to hold on to your beads. If that happens, then just pull your 15 or your 11/0 out and just keep pulling until you get it secure. Pick up an 8/0 and go through the next 2 6/0 seed beads. Now we have 2 rows of leaves. I'm going to push them back, and I'm going to start my turquoise color here. So I have my silver here. I'm going to pick up turquoise, and then I'm going to go through I'm going to skip these 2. I'm going to go through just the 2 8/0s like this on my fringe and pull. Then pick up 2 more 6/0s, go in the 2 8/0s. It's like this. And then pick up 2 more of your 6/0s and go through the next 2 8/0 seed beads and pull. And that's what it looks like. Now we're going to fill in over the top of our fringe here with our silver seed beads. So we're going to go with 2 silver 6/0s and then go into the next 2. As you do this, your tension is going to be important. So each row you're going to have to tighten with the next row. So what I mean is, if it looks a little funny with after you put your 1 row on, the second row is that you're filling it in with is the one that you really want to tighten to pull them all in alignment. It's like that. Now I've got them all tight, and this is the beginning of my work here. We'll do 1 more row, and then we'll just go to length. So how we're going to achieve this is we're going to continue just doing our fringing stitch and our peyote all the way till we get 1 inch short of the length we desire. But you must also remember that you have to put these rows here on the end. So you have to leave enough room. This is not quite 1 inch of room. So if you're going to make an 8-inch necklace, do your fringing. You've got this part already from the beginning we did. Do your fringing until you're 2 inches short. Add your rows of just your plain peyote, and then you should be 1 inch short of exactly the length you want. And then we will do our clasping. But let's do 1 more row of our peyote with our fringe, and then we will go to length. So I have I have put on my little silver seed beads under my 8/0s here, so I know I'm ready for my next row of fringe. So I'm going to pick up, you can hold it however you're comfortable. I'm going to hold it kind of upside down here, so just so that I can see my beads better, and I can hold on to my leaves without them getting in my way and tangling in my thread. So I'm going to pick up an 8/0, and then I'm going to pick up a leaf. No, I'm going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. Let's see, I did 3 on the edges. No, I did 2. So I will pick up 3 11/0 seed beads and a leaf and 11/0 seed beads. Sorry, that may have been a little confusing. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to pick up my fringe. 8/0, 3 11/0s, a leaf, and an 11/0. Sorry about that. I'll drop them down, and then I'll hold on to my leaf, go back around my 11/0, go up into my 3 11/0s. Now, whether you add 2 or 3 11/0s is kind of up to you. Like I said, I just want them to lay randomly on top. So I'm just doing 2 here, 3 there, whatever. You can do it however order you want, or you can do them all one length too. It doesn't matter. I just want mine to kind of lay in a more random pattern. Then I'm going to pick up, after I've come through my fringe, I'm going to pick up another 8/0. I'm going to go through my next 2 beads of my peyote. And then I'm going to pick up an 8/0. This time I'm going to pick up 2 11/0s and a leaf and an 11/0. And then I'm going to drop it down, hold on to my leaf, go around my 11/0, go through my leaf and my 2 11/0s on the bottom, pull. Then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 and I'm going to go into the next set of peyote beads there. And then I'm going to pick up an 8/0. This time I will do 3 8/0 or 11/0 seed beads. And I'm going to pick up a leaf and another 11/0 like this. I'm going to drop them down. I'm going to go around the 11/0 into the 3 11/0s on the bottom. Pull, and then go through the 2 6/0s on the side here. Whoops, no, I need an 8/0 seed bead. Sorry guys, I don't seem to really be with it today. So after you do your fringe, you pick up another 8/0 and then go through your 6/0 seed beads. This is what I have so far. I'll flip my little leaves back. We're going to do a row of blue. So we're going to skip these two, come up through just our 8/0 seed beads here, and pull through. And then we're going to pick up 2 more, go through our 8/0 seed beads, and pull. Pick up 2 more, go through the 8/0s, and pull. And this would be really pretty with maybe clear seed beads or the 6/0s and then crystal fringed on top. You could use a 6mm, 4mm, whatever. You can do this. This is so versatile. You could do this a million different ways. And then we're going to now add, we have finished our row of our blue, so now we're going to add our silver. We're just going to go through the 2 sticking up, add 2 silver, go through the 2 sticking up seed beads next in line. And just keep pulling through till you get to the end. This can move fairly quickly, or as fast as peyote goes. It's a slower stitch, but these are big beads, so this can move fairly quickly for you. And this is what you have. And this is the beginning of our chaotic leaf. And you can see the nice beads underneath it, and see, and this is the beginning of it. So let's go ahead and go to length. When you get to the end, make sure that you add your rows of just plain peyote and then do 2 rows of silver on the end, just to make sure that it matches this side. So however many rows you decided to put here, make sure that you do the same on the other side and then do your 2 rows of silver on top, just so that it's kind of framed. And then we will be back. Okay, so I have gone to length. This is what the bottom of my piece looks like. Now you will notice I told you to do 6 rows to start with. Basically, if you count diagonally, I have 6 rows on this side before the row that I started my leaf fringe in. And then I went to length, and then I only did 4 on this side. I have decided, well, first of all, to get, to leave myself 3/4 of an inch, half an inch, something like that, in the opening for my clasping. I wanted it to be a little bit shorter, and I went too long, so I did 4 rows on this side, and I have 6 rows on this side, which will actually work out to my advantage, because on my side over here that I started with, I can place my button up a little higher on this side and give it a little bit more leverage for my clasp. So if you want to do both sides exactly the same, that's fine. But making this side a little bit shorter of your empty little units of peyote, the ones without fringe, that'll work out fine too. So I did 6 on this side, 6 rows counting diagonally, 4 on this side before I get to my fringe. So put your needle onto your tail after you take your stopper bead off, and you'll be coming out of the little silver beads on top. What we're going to do is tie a little knot. Now I have extended my Fireline so that I have a nice long piece of Fireline here. If you didn't leave a really long tail, you may want to extend your Fireline a little bit. Tie a knot just like this. Let's move in a little closer. And then we're going to sew up through the silver beads here. Then we're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads and we're going to go into the next set of silver beads. We're just going to fill in the top spaces here between the beads. So pick up 2 more, go into the next 2 silver beads. Let's just kind of finish off our end a little bit. Then we're going to pick up 2 more and we're going to come down into the beads on the bottom here, and these will pull up on top of them just like that. Now I'm going to sew back up into these beads and go all the way through the beads I just added again and the beads next to them. So that I'm going all the way through the top row here. Now with all this fringe on your bracelet, don't be surprised if you get caught on it a bajillion times, because it will happen. I extended my tail a little too long here too. I don't need this much thread, but I thought I did, so there we go. Now I'm coming out of the silver seed beads here. Now we're going to sew over to where we can anchor our button on. And we've got our little rows here exposed. The thing with even count peyote is you're not going to have a dead center, so your bead's going to be a little bit offset. Anytime you want a dead center, you need to have an odd number of beads, but we don't. So we're going to choose a place to put it, and I think I'm going to use this set of little beads to anchor to here and this set. So I'm going to sew down. I'll sew up into these blue ones, and I'm going to sew over until I get to the beads that I want to anchor my button in. Let's see. I may want to put them in this one. Let me look at my button. Let's see. No. I'm going to go ahead and go into these over here. Okay, so let's get just a little bit closer here. And I'm going to go ahead and anchor my button on this side a little bit before I add my beads on top. So I'm going to, because I want to dress this button up, but it's going to be very difficult to dress up and sew through the beads too. So I'm just going to put my button on, then I'm going to go through the other hole, pull my thread through. Like I said, I've got way too much thread. And then I'm going to go through these 2 blue buttons right here, or 6 O's, not buttons, right underneath. So I was coming out one side, I go into the opposite side and secure this. And I'm just going to sew through it twice just to get it secured. Go through the button again. Then I'm going to go down into the 6 O's underneath the button that I'm anchoring to and go through the 2 of them and come back up through my button. And then I'm going to sew back down through my button on the next set of holes here. I'm going to find the 2 beads, and I want these 2. You don't want to sew into this very last row here that has your little bronze beads in it, or your little 8/0 beads. You don't want to sew into that one because it can pull loose. We're going to go to the one right underneath. We're going to pick these 2 silver seed beads that are in line with the seed beads that we've sewn our first buttonhole through. And we're going to go through them, and then we're going to come back up through our button, and then we're going to go through again, Come back up through our button. Then we're going to cross over through this button here, or through this buttonhole here. We're going to go back through the beads that were anchored in on these buttons, holes on this side. And now you can see that I've sewn my thread in a little square. You can see, just like that. So now I need to come back up through my buttonhole here. I've got my fringe again. And now I'm going to add some little beads on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an 8/0, 2 11/0s, and an 8/0, and I am going to go down through the hole of the button. I'm coming out here, I'm going to go into this one. And pull them down. And then I'm going to go into the 6/0 seed beads that I'm anchored to on these two holes here. So I'm going to go into these two under here, pull my needle through. Let's back off just a little bit. And then I'm going to come back up through this hole here. And then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 and 2 11/0 seed beads. And an 8/0. And then I'm going to come back down through the hole, right across here. And then I'm going to come into the little 8/0 seed beads on this side. The first ones we anchored to, or 6/0 seed beads, excuse me. Come through them. I'm going to come up through this 8/0 here. And I'm going to pick up 2 11/0 seed beads. And I'm going to go into the 8/0 straight across here. Pull it all down tight. Go into the 2 little 11/0s this way. Now that you've come through this 8/0, we're going to travel over here. We're just covering our thread so that it doesn't look like we have a bunch of thread on our button. Of course, everyone knows that buttons are sewn on and there's thread that's supposed to come through them, but this is jewelry, so we're going to cover our path here. And then we're going to pick up 2 11/0 seed beads. We're going to come through the next 8/0 and the 2 11/0s here. This ledge on this button is very difficult to sew around. There we go. That was a fight. So I recommend don't get a button with a ledge. It's very, very difficult. Then I'm going to go back down and I'm going to anchor all this on here. So I'm going to go down through my, just go down through my little 8/0 seed bead right here. Then I'm going to come up to find my anchoring beads here. Come up through them. Come up through this 8/0 seed bead here. Just like that. And now everything's on their stable and I'm coming up through one of my 8/0 seed beads right there. I am going to pick up a 6/0 seed bead and I'm going to go straight across to the 8/0 seed beads on this side. I'm going to poke the needle through it and go straight down through the peyote. I'm going to find the beads I'm anchored to and I'm going to sew back up through them. So I'm anchored through here, or actually we'll go up to these ones. I'm going to sew back up through. Oh, this button is a pain. Alright, I'm just going to come up the hole then. There we go. The main thing is just not to bunch your work. I'm going to come up through this 8/0 seed bead right here and the 6/0. Get past the ledge on the button, and I'm going to pull that 8/0 into place. There we go. Now I'm exiting the 6/0 on top. So basically, you're just going to sew your button on in a square and cover it with beads the best that you possibly can. You just want to get this anchored on here very tightly, and it is now. Now, I know this is confusing, and it looks incredibly hard. You just have to kind of find a way to anchor your bead on the best you can. When you sew it on in the square and then put your little beads over the top of it, it's really not that difficult. It's just not done gracefully. I don't care how hard you try, you can't do it gracefully. So it's going to look ridiculous as I try to show you. However, you can accomplish it. It's not impossible. So now we're coming out of the 6/0 seed bead. We're going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. Then we're going to pick up a leaf, and we're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead. And we're going to drop it down. And now we're going to go around the 11/0 seed bead. And then we're going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads, and we're going to go through the 6/0 right here. Try to get around that ledge on my button. I truly recommend a flat button. I never foresaw that when I picked out this button. And then we are going to pick up 3 more 11/0 seed beads. And then another leaf. Let's see, let's use a blue one. And an 11/0 on top. Go around the 11/0 on top of your bead. Go through your bead. Go down through the 3 underneath it. And into your 6, well, don't go into your 6/0 just yet. Actually, don't go into those 3 beads. Yeah, just go around the 11/0 and into the leaf. And then pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. I apologize today. I am just not with it or something. I just don't have my head here. And then I'm going to go through the 6/0 in the center here. And now we're going to do something a little different. We're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. We're going to pick up 2 11/0 seed beads, and then a leaf. And let's see, what color didn't I use yet? This color. And an 11/0. And now we are going to come down with our 8/0 seed bead. We're going to push it right up against that 6/0 there in the middle. We're going to go around the 11/0 and into the leaf, and this time we are going to go into the 11/0s under the leaf and the 8/0 that we very first put on and the 6/0, and see if I can get past my goofy button here. There we go. And then we're going to do one more. We're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. We're going to pick up 2 11/0s, excuse me. And we're going to pick up another color of our leaf. and then an 11-0 on top. Go around the 11-0, go down into the leaf, go down into the 8-0 seed bead and the 6-0, and then exit. Just like that. Pull everything tight. Make sure every single one of them is nice and tight. This little fringe over here. If one fringe is loose, then the next one will be loose, and so on and so forth. So make sure they're all tight like that. And then we will go down into this 8-0, through our button, and through our peyote, like this. And now we will sew through beads and tie knots and sew off. Tie off this side of our thread. So it's going to be difficult for me to get up through these beads. I'll go through these two. Just find a nice path where you can get up through. My bead is my needle is a little bent, so it's difficult to work with now after going through this button escapade here. There we go. Whew, that was hard. Okay, so now I'm just going to sew until I can get over to some beads on the edge here and tie off on my thread bridge. So I'm going to go through these two 8-0s. And then my needle ended up on the other side somehow. Then I'm going to go through these two over here. And then I'm just going to tie off right here. Go up through a couple more beads, come down through a couple more beads and tie another knot. Now you can sew through as much as you like, tie off as much as you like. I'm just going to sew into my work a little bit and tie off, and we'll come back and make our loop for the other side of our button clasp. We're going to take our needle and we're going to put it on our working thread on the other end where we ended here. Now this is my shorter end and I am coming out of the bead right here. I am going to make a half hitch knot, secure this end. Again, pull it towards your work or hold on to your beads, but don't pull your thread bridge out when you do that. And then come up through the beads, add 2 8-0s between the spaces here. Fill in the spaces, I guess would be a better way to put it. When you get to the end, come through the 2 bottom beads here. Pull through. Sew down into the beads below. And sew up into the next 2. Just working my way back up. And then I'm going to sew into these 2 silver on top here, the 2 8-0s I just added, and into the 2 silver ones here. I'm going to pull that tight. Now I am going to add a series of 8-0 seed beads, and I am just going to get enough to go around my button. So I can't tell you exactly how many. We're just going to pick them up until we get enough. We'll go back through here, but we have to have enough to go around our button. Okay, let's see what we've got. So I'm going to slide just through these first 2 beads here just so I can hold it tight and see if my button will go around that. Now we've got all this goofy stuff on top of our button too, so let's see if I can hold on to this tight and slide my button through. Yes, I can. So I have enough beads, so I'm going to release this again. And now I'm going to sew up through all of these beads. So I've just come through the first set so that I could hold it tight. I'm going to sew through all of these. Don't miss any. With all this fringe and all this stuff on your work, it gets difficult to keep your thread free. So all the way up through. And then once you get to the end, you're going to start sewing up through the beads you just added. So you're just going to come up through all of these beads and sew all the way around. You're going to come through all of these, come back through all of these, come through all of these, come back through all of these, and then we'll tie a knot. We're going to do that several times until you feel as if your loop is very secure, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have sewn through my loop several times to secure it until I felt like it was strong enough to withstand being pulled on as a clasp. And then as I came back through my last round, I exited this 6/0 seed bead here. Now we're going to put on a little finishing embellishment, little fringe on the ends so that our piece looks a little bit more framed and finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead and an 11/0 seed bead. And we're going to drop them down. And we're just going to let them lay right on top of that little 6/0 there. Bump up a little closer here. Then, just as we've been doing when we were fringing, we're going to go around the 11/0 seed bead and go into the 8/0 seed bead. Then we're going to go into the 2 beads beneath the beads we just added. And then we're going to go into the next set of beads right next to it. Just go up into that set. Then we're going to pick up another 8/0 seed bead and 11/0 seed bead. We're going to drop them down. We're going to go around the 11/0 into the 8/0 and down through our beads here. And then we're going to go into the next set of beads. Now if your beads look a little pulled apart and you want to get them more secure together, you can go over the top like this and sew them back together. I'm going to do that just because for some reason maybe I pulled too tight or something, but they're separating a little bit here and I'm going to fix them before I move on. If you don't have that issue, don't worry about it. So I'm coming out of the set of beads just like I would be if I hadn't just secured that. And I'm going to go up into my next set of beads here. And I'm going to pick up an 8/0 and an 11/0 and drop them down. And then go through the 8/0, around the 11/0, into the 2 6/0s beneath, and then up into the next set of 6/0s. Again, these are kind of pulling apart, so I'm just going to sew into this set. Oops. And then sew back up into this set. Now you don't want to pull things to where they bunch or anything, but you can kind of secure your ends so that they look much more finished and polished. So we'll pick up another 8/0 and 11/0, drop it down, and go around the 11/0 into the 8/0 and the 2 beads beneath. We're going to do this the entire length of the bracelet. We will sew through, once we get to the end of the bracelet, we will sew through our top row here and then come down underneath the seed beads and start this side again. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and finish this side. We'll sew through and start the other side. Okay, so I have finished my entire side of fringing here. And I'm coming out of the very last silver little set of seed beads here. Let's zoom back in. So I did this fringe, I come down and I came up into this very last one. So I'm going to pick up my 8/0 seed bead and my 11/0. I'm going to go around the 11/0 seed bead into the 8/0 and the 2 silver beads right underneath it and pull my thread through. And now to get to the other side to do my fringing, I'm just going to sew through all these beads on my last row here. So I'm going to go up through the 8/0s and pull my thread through. And just take a couple at a time because they're kind of offset, so they are difficult to grab them all at once. To get to the end, go through the 2 little 8/0s right here. And we'll place a little fringe in there. Now the one thing I did notice with the 8/0s in my entire body of work as I'm fringing them, they're a little bit more difficult to go down in. These 2 won't be, but some of these down here, they're pulled a little funny from the fringe on the other side when we added our leaves. So they can be a little bit more difficult to go through, but it is most definitely possible. It just takes a little bit more effort. You may have to go through one and then go through the other before you can get completely through them, instead of taking both at the same time. Now we'll just go up into the next set of beads on the end here, and we'll pick up our fringe again, our 8/0 and our 11/0. Go around them, around the 11/0 anyway, into the 8/0 and the 2 beads beneath it, and then come up into the next set of beads, and just continue this all the way down to the end, and then we'll sew through our body of work and tie off. Okay, so I did my entire end of fringing, and then I just sewed through back into my work and tied off several times, and this is the end result of our project here. It's really kind of cute. This is what the bottom looks like, and this is what your button clasp looks like. And I will put this on and show you what it looks like on. And this is what it looks like on. It's really fun. It moves around a lot and makes some noise, and it's just really cute. Let's back off just a little bit here. It's just really cute little leaf bracelet. I hope you enjoyed this project today and have fun making them. And remember, you don't have to use just leaves. You can do this with almost anything. Don't ever let a certain type of bead limit your creativity. Use something else. Try different sizes, try different colors, try different types of beads, and see what you come up with. Have a good time. Bye-bye.